What's going on, Brew Tubers? It's your host, Shannon Harris, aka the Brew Brother. Thank you again for tuning in and make sure you hit that subscribe button. Today, we are going to unbox a FastFerment 7.9 gallon Conical fermenter delivered by Great Fermentations, which is an awesome online homebrew supply store. So, let's get into this bad boy. One of the highly advertised features of the FastFerment Conical is that you can hang it on a wall. Some people may be keen to that, some may not. Me, I'm not too sure what side of the fence I'm on for that just yet, but they do include the wall mount brackets that you can insert into the wall with these 4 wall mount bolts, 4 washers, and they also included a spare O-ring, which is actually pretty cool. We'll get into that later in the video what that's for. Here's your collection ball, union valve, and one of the 2 union valve fittings included in the package that connects to the collection ball. The purpose of this collection ball is to capture all of the yeast, the trub, the hop matter if you're dry hopping during primary fermentation, all fills up in this ball that you can easily detach to harvest your yeast to use in your next batch of beer, or you can just clean it out, ditch it, and reattach it to begin secondary fermentation. It's pretty awesome. So the union valve is pretty self-explanatory. The collection bulb is connected under it. You open the valve and that's going to fill up that ball with that yeast, trub, hop matter to help clean up the beer. When you're done with the flow, all you do is close it and you can detach that ball and it's not going to have beer flowing out. Now this is all one piece, all made out of plastic. They do not recommend that you take it apart to clean it, but they do have instructions on how to clean it. As you can see, it does have that O-ring, so that spare one that we had earlier in the video will go there. If you lose it, damage it, easy to replace. I highly recommend wrapping Teflon tape around it so you don't strip any of the plastic when connecting this bad boy all together. It's pretty good. Here is the ball valve close up. You can see inside of it, cool. You can tell by the top of it. I had to rewrap that with Teflon tape as well because it is plastic. I don't want to strip or scratch anything up and make this a harvesting burial ground for bacteria. So the union valve will connect to the top of that. But that's before you connect one of the union valve fittings. That's also going to be connected to it as well. And this is the union valve fitting that you were seeing earlier. It's a 2-piece plastic thing that you would connect. This little piece that I have in my hand, that is going to screw on to the actual collection ball. And then the actual big fitting here will screw on to the bottom of the union valve, so they will all be connected together. So here's that wall mount that is one of the key features of the Conical. You can see in the middle there that with these metal brackets that's on the side of the Conical, they hang right in the center of that once this is connected to your wall. They say you can put it in your basement, your brew room, even your living room, and just forget about it. I'm still on the fence about what I'm gonna do because I'm not sure of all the weight that this Conical can hold once it's filled with beer or wine or whatever I decide to make. I just want to make sure it's durable and I don't wake up in the middle of the night to a Conical crashing to the ground and spilling beer everywhere. Here we have a brass thermal well that is included with the Conical package. It does go on the side of the Conical, so you can read the inside temperatures of the liquid that's inside. My only downvote with this fitting here is that it doesn't actually come with a thermometer. Boo, thumbs down. I feel for the price point of the Conical, a thermometer should definitely be included, but it is not. So you do have to order that as an additional accessory. You can see I put a little bit of Teflon tape on the brass fitting because it is a plastic Conical. I want to make sure I get this inserted right the first time to avoid scratches because I would hate to have future infections in my beer due to poor installation or scratches from the fitting. I did try to use my actual Spike Brewing kettle thermostat into the brass fitting, but it didn't fit. So the probe fit in perfectly, but the actual thermostat that screws into it is too wide, so it didn't fit. Here is the lid for the FastFerment. Standard lid, twist on, twist off. It does include the 3-piece airlock, which I thought was pretty cool. You can never have too many of those. So it does have all three pieces, the body, the inside bubbler, and the cap. It does have an O-ring fitting that fits it in there pretty snug, so you don't have to worry about any of the O2 that's inside escaping from the beer, which is good. Underneath it, it did come with a styrofoam O-ring. I'm not too sure what it's for. I'm guessing to help get a nice seal on there, but it worries me that it's styrofoam because if it rips and tears, they didn't give you a spare included with the package. So I'm hoping that a homebrew supply store or FastFerment website does sell that separately, pretty cheap, so you can order it in case you need it to be replaced. But I do like the wide mouth style of the Conical. I have some wide mouth fermentation vessels that I currently use, so it's good transition. Here's the actual mothership, the body of the actual FastFerment, the Conical itself. Pretty thick plastic. Seems like it'll hold temperatures very well. I'm going to be very careful with the inside to make sure I don't scratch anything. Here's the bottom of that Conical. If you remember from earlier in the video, we had that union valve. This is where it actually screws on. And I put some Teflon tape there to avoid the whole scratching infection scenario. And here's the top of the Conical where the lid goes. And there's that wide mouth opening that I love so much. So if you're thinking of dry hopping, you got easy access to get that in there. I did wrap it with some Teflon tape to make sure the lid doesn't scratch anything up, so it's looking good. You can see here, trying to focus the camera as good as I can, but hey, let's keep it pushing. You can see the actual gallon markings. There's a 7 there, and then it goes to the half mark and a 6, and so on and so on. I think the minimum it goes down to is 1 gallon is correct, and that's good. I'm actually thinking of taking a Sharpie or like some nail polish or something to kind of go over those to make it more visible so I can know exactly where I'm at as far as gallons. Let's move on to the actual hose barb, and the hose clamp for bottling day. This is included with the package that you get your Conical in. So pretty good accessories. I'm not sure of the length and the diameter of that actual hose, but I'll include that later. Here is the actual hose barb. Looks like it has a 1-inch opening. So you should get a pretty good flow rate out of there once you connect the actual hose to it for bottling day. Here's the hose clamp. You just slide the hose through there. You'll be able to control the flow by pushing in or out to let you know how much liquid you want to be coming through when you're actually bottling. To attach this, there was another union valve fitting that I mentioned earlier. So when you remove the collection ball, you would use that other union valve fitting to connect the barb, and the actual union valve will hold it all in place. Then you connect this hose, and I need to double check to make sure that my current bottling wand will fit on this particular hose. It seems pretty big, but I'll double check on that. If not, I guess that's another accessory that I have to include. But hey, seems like it'd be an easy way to bottle directly from the Conical once fermentation is done. Looking forward to that. I did decide to go with the stand. Because I wasn't too sure if I'm going to hang this Conical on the wall just yet. But with the stand, I'll be able to stand it in place. Seems like a pretty easy build, looking at the instructions briefly, just a few pieces. I did also get the carrying strap just from my experience with trying to move fermentation vessels that's full of beer or wine. Is very heavy, so this will relieve some pressure off the back. It makes it much easier to maneuver around. Let's put this together. Here's the collection ball and one of the union valve fittings that I showed you guys and gals earlier. So this small piece that's inside the fitting, that is the actual piece that you're going to screw on top of the collection ball. So I did wrap it with some Teflon tape so I don't strip that plastic. You just want to twist it on there and get a real nice tight fitting so you don't have to worry about any kind of leaks later. And then the loose part of that union valve that we have here, that is actually going to connect to the actual union valve so we can hold both the collection ball and that valve in place. Here's that valve again. I'm going to open it so you can see it open, peekaboo, see right through it. And we're going to keep it closed at this point. So I did wrap it with Teflon tape, but we're going to take the top half of the union valve and screw that on tightly and snug to the bottom half of the conical, which also has Teflon tape. All about being sanitary here. Don't need to stress, strip, and scratch up the fittings to lead to infections later. So it looked like I got it on there pretty tight. It's looking good, looking real good. And then now I'm gonna go ahead and take that collection ball, line up the top half of it to the O-ring bottom of the actual union valve, and use the loose fitting part to screw it all together. So this is gonna lock everything in, make sure it's sealed tightly with that O-ring, and we shouldn't have to worry about any leaks from this part of the fast ferment, hopefully. Look at that. Did a damn good job. Yay. Now we have that thermal well. It is brass. It's wrapped with the Teflon tape. It's going to insert through the side of the conical. I'm just going to loosely put this on now because I want to make sure I insert this right on the first attempt so I don't strip that plastic female fitting and get it all scratched up and worn out. They recommend in the manual that every 12 months you should check on that. So the worst case scenario, you're spending $100 a year to replace the conicals, but it's looking really good. Once I put it on correctly, it'll look a lot better. So here's the inside. You can see that the thermal well is pointing a little upward, but it's definitely in there. I see that it's sitting a little bit above the 5-gallon mark pointing up. So I would say put 5.5 gallons in there to make sure it's completely submerged, and you'll be able to get more accurate readings once that thermometer is connected. So here's the ball. You'll just open that valve, and then everything that's above it in the conical would just fall into the collection ball. Bloop, 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 bloop. And then you'll close it off, and that'll grant you the access to remove the ball and dump or harvest that yeast. Here is the conical. I do have it filled with some hot water right now at the moment. Just want to do a little bit of a leak test here. It's looking okay, but seems like it'll be a good fermentation vessel. You can see that it's inside the stand. It's holding up nicely, no wobbling or anything, looks good. But if you look on the right side, you'll see that that thermal well is leaking a bit. And that's because I didn't tighten it up the way it's supposed to be. So I did open up the valve after water has been sitting in it, and I let that collection ball fill up. So we're gonna disconnect that. And yeah, it fills all the way up to the rim with water. So let's just go ahead and dump that. So little cautionary to know about if you're removing that with yeast and liquid. So this is the actual conical all in place, looking really good, very sturdy product. I'm looking forward to actually using it. So getting a brew day ready for the future, and we'll see exactly how this bad boy can ferment. Hopefully it holds liquids good and we don't have to worry about any leaks. So I recommend doing leak tests again before actually filling it up with work. It would suck to throw a whole brew day away to find out there's a leak later. Here's my previous fermentation vessels. I had a plastic PET carboy, a wide mouth Furmonster, and the actual conical all side by side. So big difference in sizes, but looking forward to it. So thank you all for tuning in to my unboxing of the FastFerment Conical fermenter.